Hello guys, welcome here to Out of Turn 4. This is our Indy 500 special. I apologize for not having a video on Tuesday, by the way. Unfortunately, there's been a lot that's been going on. And just this has been a bad week, honestly, and I'm powering through. It's Indy 500 week. It's the biggest racing week of the year, and that's why I'm here and not taking a break. But I needed that break on Tuesday. I just couldn't. I wasn't in the right space to do an episode, and I think it's very important to let you guys know that I wasn't in the right headspace to do an episode of Out of Turn 4 on Tuesday because, of course, we are in Mental Health Awareness Month. So I just want to say that to be fully transparent, to be fully out there about it. And, I'm doing better now. Just a lot going on in my personal life right now that I've had to deal with, and we're back. I'm excited to be here. I'm so excited to do this episode for you guys. This is my favorite special we do all season. And I can't wait to do it now. And of course, we're going to start by recapping Indy 500 practice weeks. We're going to recap all the sessions. We're going to recap the pit competition that happened yesterday afternoon. So get ready. We got a lot to unpack. I'm also going to do, before we make our picks, our pretenders and contenders segment that I do every year. And it's basically, for those who don't know, who don't watch normally, this is our this is our way of going through the grid 33 to 1, positions 33 to 1 starting, where I say whether I think they can have a shot at winning, being a contender, or are they a pretender, meaning that they are a driver that is not exactly a guy or girl that I think is going to be in the running at the end. Not necessarily DNF, but, more just, I just don't think they're going to be, a factor. So we begin with practice number 3. Of course, they had some weather that they dealt with early in the week. I'm using the IndyCar app. If you don't have it, please download it. If you're an IndyCar fan, it's actually gotten a lot better this year. It is a really nice app. But Takuma Sato paced the opening practice, practice number 3. It was really just a Chip Ganassi racing show, as everyone expected. Scott Dixon was second. Santino Ferrucci and that AJ Foyt team really brought a rocket here. They finished third in practice. Alex Palou fourth. Scott McLaughlin in fifth. Colton Herta sixth. Marcus Ericsson in seventh. Ryan Hunter-Reay in eighth. Joseph Newgarden in ninth. Marco Andretti rounded out the top 10. Practice number 2, it was Marcus Ericsson, or practice number 4, it was Marcus Ericsson. Then it was Scott Dixon, Simon Pagenaud, Will Power, Colton Herta, Connor Daly, Takuma Sato, Pato Award, Alex Palou, Alexander Rossi. Those were your top 10 in practice number 4. That happened May 18th. May 19th, of course, I believe this was Fast Friday, or maybe it was Thursday. Takuma Sato and Marco Andretti paced the field at 234 miles an hour. 234.753 for Takuma Sato. Remarkable run. Of course, I mentioned Marco. 234.202 was the fastest time. Then you got Rinus VeeKay, Marcus Ericsson, Pato Award, Joseph Newgarden, Santino Ferrucci, Kyle Kirkwood, Colton Herta, and Scott Dixon. So generally consistent. Final practice before qualifying, we had TK top the boards at 233.2 or 026. Then we had Rossi, so it was a pair of the Arrow McLaren guys at the top. Palou, Kirkwood, Dixon, Herta, Daly, DeFrancesco made the top 10. Then, of course, Callum Ilott and Jack Harvey. And it seems like those were the only 10 that went out on track before this all happened. Of course, qualifying was rather eventful, so I want to bring up the starting lineup. Of course, there was a big battle between these four guys. Of course, Christian Lundgaard, or I'm sorry, Stingray Robb, Jack Harvey, Graham Rahal, and yeah, Christian Lundgaard. So, of course, I'm going to bring up that in a moment. This was for the last row shootout. But, of course, starting on the pole for the Indy 500 will be Alex Palou in the number 10. We got Rinus VK, Felix Rosenqvist. They will make up row 1 after qualifying over the last 3 days. Then, of course, row 2 will have Santino Ferrucci, Pato O'Ward, and Scott Dixon, a former winner of the race, the highest starting former winner of the Indy 500. Rossi Sato Kanan will make up row 3. Kanan, of course, keep in mind, will be in his last Indy 500, his last IndyCar race of his illustrious career. Ericsson, Peterson, and Power round out row number 4 and the top 12. So now we go to the last row shootout that occurred on Sunday, and boy was it eventful. We had Christian Lundgaard, Stingray Robb, Jack Harvey, and Graham Rahal all racing to try to make the field for the Indy 500. Jack Harvey goes out. He puts up quite a lap average, 229.166, to bump his teammate Graham Rahal from the Indy 500 field. So Graham Rahal was the lone DNQ, but not so fast, because we then went to other sessions. And of course, after qualifying, we had practice number 8. Will Power paced that with Dixon, Sato, Palou, Kanan, Daly, Andretti, Peterson, O'Ward, and Herta. But keep in mind, we lost in that, of course. There was an incident between Catherine Legg and Stefan Wilson. So Catherine Legg, Stefan Wilson, they made contact. Stefan Wilson ended up having to be carried out on a stretcher to the hospital, where he was diagnosed with a fractured vertebrae. He will no longer race in the Indy 500 for Dreyer and Reinbold Racing. Instead, it will be Graham Rahal who will take over the number 24 for Dreyer and Reinbold Racing going into the Indy 500. So at the end of the day, Graham Rahal will get a shot at this season's Indy 500, 30 years to the day after his own father, Bobby Rahal, missed the race. And of course, I got to give a shout out, hopefully Steph Wilson, I hope you're doing all right, bud. I know this is the one race a year you prepare for, and hopefully we'll see him back here next year for another attempt at the Indy 500. As far as Graham Rahal goes and Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, they just missed. It was a complete swing and a miss across the board for them. The fact Catherine Legg was the only Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan car that was locked in the field going into Sunday is, to me, embarrassing for the full-timers. It's embarrassing for those mechanics, and it's showing that, man, they've got a lot of work to do. And I'm going to drink to that, because I know these mechanics need that. And by the way, if you live on the East Coast and you see this on your shelves at your local grocery store, go get it. It is phenomenal. But, of course, again, prayers for Steph Wilson. It'll be great to see Graham Rahal in behind the wheel. And I can't say enough about Chevy and Honda working together to create this solution to allow Graham Rahal to race the number 24. And, of course, Racer Magazine did a good article about that whole matter. So please go check it out. It's a great article. You won't want to, not read it, basically. Of course, We do have some cup news, but I'll get to that at the end. This video is more... We will make our Coke 600 picks, though. I can tell you that. We won't make truck picks. We won't make Xfinity picks because those races essentially got moved. And I just missed my chance. So, but we'll get going with our next round of games that we like to do. And it's called Contender or Pretender. So essentially, what I do is look through the grid, and I tell you who I think is a guy that can win or be in the running at the end to win or have a solid result. Or do I think they're a pretender and will finish toward the back and not be in the running throughout the race, really. So we begin. Of course, I pulled up the starting grid. Of course, we know Graham Rahal will start 33rd. That is due to a driver change. I'm going to start out by saying pretender for Graham Rahal, and it's a shame because he's had some good runs in this race, but he's been thrown in last second to this role. That's number one. I do think he's going to be the biggest mover in the race, though. I think Graham Rahal will find a way to make the top 20 by the end of this. I think he's too strong not to. But at the end of the day, it's just, again, he's driving for a team he's never driven for. He's driving with the manufacturer he's never driven for. I just don't see him making great strides to get, to the top 10, top 5. I think that's going to be a little too much to expect. Starting in 32nd, we got Jack Harvey, and I think, much like Graham Rahal, he's going to make great strides. I feel like Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, at least this 30 team might have just found something in the last practice session. They looked really fast. So I'm not exactly going to rule them out, but I do have to list them as a pretender. Again, it's going to be a rebuild for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. I think at the end of the season it has to be, because Lundgaard's only shown like flashes of brilliance this year. Jack Harvey's shown really nothing all year, and Rahal's been just a tick off all year. So I think they're going to go back to the drawing boards at the conclusion of this. And it'll be a much-needed rebuild for them, much like we're constantly seeing with AJ Foyt racing, although it might be the end of that. I don't know. We keep saying that every time they bring in a veteran driver, but it never works out that way. Starting in 31st, we got Stingray Robb for Rick Ware Racing and Dale Coyne Racing. He's another one I just think is a pretender. I think, though, unlike Rahal and Harvey, I just don't think he's going to move much from that position. I just don't see, speed in that 51. So, really not much more I can say on that. Starting in 30th in the, 11th or in the 10th row there outside is Christian Lundgaard. He had a strong Indy GP. I thought he had a real shot at winning it, but unfortunately fell short. He's another one I just think is a pretender, but I think he's going to find his way forward. I don't think 30th or 30th or lower is going to be his ultimate end result. But again, I can't say that it's going to be much higher than 20th, or 15th. 29th, middle of that 10th row, is Catherine Legg in the number 44. Another one I think's an easy pretender. She's been the fastest of the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan guys or drivers, but again, I just don't see much speed out of that car. I think much like Stingray Robb, if there's going to be any progression, it's going to be very minimal. So I've got to go with pretender for Catherine Legg. I think, she's not a safe pick. R.C. Anderson is on the inside of row number 10, and this has been the surprise. This has been the Cinderella story of Indy 500 race week so far. Of course, this team has been thrown together really in the last month, the very last second. Able Motorsports, of course, an Indy NXT team, and they are, man, it's good I don't call it contenders, pretenders, and dark horses, because this team looks strong so far to start Indy 500 race week. They've shown some relatively decent speed. They've shown, they've really, in a way, had to learn on the fly going into Indy 500 week. I thought going in this would be a guaranteed bump. Little did I know that Rahal Letterman Lanigan would be that far off. So it's a tough way to say he's a pretender, but man, he's made some strides, and this team really looks solid. I mean, they remind me sort of that Juncos team, when Alonso got bumped from the Indy 500 the first year they did that last row shootout. So, I do think there's speed there. I think they're going to really do a lot better than people think they are. But, ultimately we'll see. We do have a pair of Juncos cars coming up, but I start with Callum Ilott, definite pretender. That team, much like Rahal Letterman Lanigan, has just been off from the beginning. It seems like they found a little something, but I just don't think they're going to move much from where they are. To be honest, though, the surprising rookie from Argentina, though, is starting ahead of him in 26th. That is Agustin Canapino. I think he will be a pretender as well, but do look for him. I think he's the strongest out of the Juncos Hollinger cars, so I don't think he'll be, lower than where he started. Devlin DiFrancesco, Andretti's got to do something with this kid. He's just not the right guy for that seat. Definite pretender. I just don't see him making strides, to be honest. I think he's going to be the 33rd place finisher, in all honesty. He just always finds a way to wreck the cars. There's just no way around it. Now we're into row 8. We begin on the outside with Marco Andretti. Thank God Marco Andretti is okay, by the way. In case you guys haven't heard, he got into a car accident with his Lamborghini. He totaled the car. He is okay, though, so he will race on Sunday. But, thank God he's okay. He's going to be the first one I'm going to say is a contender, to be honest. Marco's always good in Indy. I think he'll find his way to the top 10 through strategy, through perseverance. I think he's going to get up to the front very quick. I know it's not looking promising. I know he hasn't looked good, but I feel like Roman and Kyle Kirkwood have found something, and if they have found something, they can share it with Marco. They can get him, I think this Andretti team is definitely going to look a lot better than they've looked. Minus Devlin. Devlin's just a lost cause to me. Starting 23rd, Little Dave, Dave Malukas. I just think he's a contender, honestly. I really think he's a contender. It was a 50-50 shot, but he was good last year at the Indy 500. I think it'll double down here. And I think he'll find his way to the front, much like Marco. I wouldn't be shocked if this team finds their way to the top 15 or top 10. Simon Pagenaud, he starts in 22nd. I got to put him as a pretender. This move to, Meyer and Shank has not paid off for him whatsoever. It has been just a nightmarish move. I don't think he's going to be with the team next year. I got to list him as a pretender. He's been just not good in that ride. 21st is Colton Herta. I got to list him as a contender as well. Loosely, though, I mean, again, what I said about Marco, Andretti found something in final practice. I think that could translate to race day. We will see. Starting in 20th is the ageless Helio Castroneves. Another one, this team, Meyer and Shank, has just not been on it the last couple years. But I think he's a contender. I think it's very hard to list Helio as anything but. So I think he'll find his way to the front, But I just don't think... Does he have a race-winning car? I don't think so. But I think he'll get up there. Romain Grosjean starts in 19th and on the inside of that row. I got to list him as a contender. He's the fastest out of those. He's like first or second fastest out of that Andretti stable. He'll find his way to the front. There's no question about it. He'll find his way up there. Just hopefully he can keep the car in one piece. He's not been, he's aggressive. We know he is. But I think he'll keep it together. Ryan Hunter-Reay in the 23. Ah, man. It's so easy to list him as a pretender. And this one's an on-the-fence move, but, I gotta list him as pretender. I just don't think... I think this team is gonna... this Dreyer-Reinbold team is going to regress without Santino and, without Santino and without Sage Karam in that car. So I think this is going to be a learning curve for Dreyer-Reinbold. But I do think Ryan Hunter-Reay will stay around where he's at. But I do see him losing some positions here. Joseph Newgarden, he's obviously a contender. Penske, even if they don't find anything in qualifying, they always find it in the race. So Joseph Newgarden, contender. Connor Daly, contender. He's been running at the front the last few years. I think he's going to have a fast race car on Sunday. I think him and Renus are really going to have fast race cars. I wouldn't even be shocked if Ed Carpenter's up there making some moves. Kyle Kirkwood, man, this is a contender. This is a big contender here, and I know he's starting 15th. He's going to have a lot of work to do. But, man, I think he's a contender here for the win. Again, the fastest out of the Andretti stable. Definitely no sophomore slump there for the driver, the 27. Scott McLaughlin, obvious contender. Again, Penske. Even though they don't find it in qualifying, they usually find it in the race. And I would not be shocked to see the Yellow Submarine up front. Ed Carpenter... It seems like, he always has speed in qualifying, but he never has the speed in the race. So I got to go pretender. I think he's right where he's going to be, basically. I don't think he's going to be in the top 10 jostling for the win, obviously. Will Power, contender, winner of the race in the past. And again, same thing with the Penskes. They're going to find their way forward one way or another. Benjamin Peterson, pretender. I'm sorry. He's, I think he'll, be top 25 at the end of this, but that's about the best I see him. He's been off this year, but I think he'll have an okay race. I just don't know. I just don't see him heading anywhere forward from here. Marcus Ericsson, the defending winner of the race, absolutely a contender. I think, Chip Ganassi Racing is one of two teams that is like the belle of the ball right now, or, top of the line right there. So 100% Marcus Ericsson's going to be in the running. We're now into row 3. We begin with Tony Kanaan. And again, I'm so upset it's going to be his last race, man. I am so disappointed to see it's going to be his last go. And I've met him before. He's a great driver, a great person. Tony, congratulations on retirement. And I hope it serves you well. We're going to miss seeing you try to win at Indy. And I hope we'll see him back in some role, in some capacity, even if it's an SRX. I hope we see him continue to drive. Absolute contender. He's just as fast as his three teammates are right now. Arrow McLaren Racing is that other team that is just a force to be reckoned with here. And these two teams are the clear-cut favorites going into Sunday, or going into tomorrow afternoon. Takuma Sato, man, he is fast. He is fast in that number 11. Man, and I don't want to make my pick yet, but it might be a spoiler to you. But, man, he's the guy to beat. I'm sorry. He's 100% the guy to beat. Contender all the way. Alexander Rossi, contender. He's a former winner. New team, though. It has me a little bit weary about him, but I think he'll be there at the end. Scott Dixon, man, Scott Dixon should be a 3-time winner of the race right now. 100% he should be. Had last year's race in the bag, had the year before that, had mistakes that costed him at the end of the day. You just sit there and wonder, man, what mistake is that 9 team or him himself going to make that's going to cost him the win? I can't tell you what that is, but contender still. He'll still be in the top 10. He'll still be in the front running. Just, you got to question, what's going to happen next. Starting in 5th, ironically, the number 5, Pato O'Ward. Contender, 100%. He is just as fast as his teammates. Again, these two teams, McLaren and Ganassi, rather, are the class of the field all the way. 100% the class of the field. They'll be at the front at the end, battling it out. Santino Ferrucci, man, I'm going to tell you, as far as Santino goes, I had low expectations going into this race about him. So low. I did not expect this monster of a qualifying run from Santino Ferrucci and AJ Foyt Racing. Did not expect it. I got to list him as a contender just on that alone. Just wow is all I can say. But he did have issues, staying in the draft, being able to advance. This team's going to have a little bit of work to do if they want to stay up there. He was a close pretender from final practice that I thought. But, I think they'll get it figured out. I think they'll really, be there at the end. So, contender. But, again, I do have my fears about that team, obviously. Number 6, Felix Rosenquist. He starts in 3rd. We are now on the front row. It's easy to list him as a pretender because he always, just chokes in these races. But I think it's going to be contender year for him. But I just don't know if he's going to hold it together to win. That's my biggest fear. Renus, another guy that just shows speed in qualifying, and he's not really there at the end. It feels like every time we come to Indy, Ed Carpenter, Renus VK, they show speed in qualifying, and they don't show the speed in the race. Then you look at Connor Daly, and it's like he's not showing the qualifying speed, but boy, he's showing the race speed. So I feel like this is going to be the highest pretender that I have in the field. I think Renus will be there at the end, but I just don't think he's going to be, based on his starting position, a contender. I just don't think he's going to be. And then Alex Palou, first of the 33, he is 100% a contender. And again, you've already heard what I said about Chip Ganassi Racing. I think they'll be there at the end. All right, that's all for contenders and pretenders. So we go to the Coca-Cola 600 picks. This seems to be a Toyota race, but I think that's going to change. I think, the Chevys have something on mile and a halves. And to be honest, I think Hendrick specifically. But I think, honestly, Kyle Larson got a big momentum boost from the All-Star race in North Wilkesboro. Alex Bowman is back this weekend. But I think this is William Byron's race. I think it's going to be William Byron. I think he gets the win. But I do think Chase Elliott's going to be close. So I think it'll be William Byron, first and foremost. He'll get the win. Now to the race that we really are going to predict. Well, actually, wait. Let's do Monaco. Max Verstappen. Do you want me to say more? It's just going to be follow the leader the whole time at Monaco. Now we're on to the Indianapolis 500, the race in the middle of probably the biggest racing day. Actually, not even probably, it is the biggest racing day of the year. The greatest spectacle in racing. Man, I wanted to go Connor Daly, but I just don't think it's this year's just, he'll be there at the end. I don't think he's going to win, though. I wanted to go TK. TK's another one. I think he'll get on the podium. I just don't think he'll get the win. I'm going to go, and I'm going to say this guy's going to join the three-timers club. I'm going Takuma Sato. Takuma Sato will win the Indy 500. He'll be the first, he'll be a part-timer to do it. I'm sorry, but the most speed I've seen this week, and to be honest, Sato has been, I think Sato's in a position where he's in the best car he's ever been in Indy. And I think he's going to put his name in the three-timers club. And if he comes back to Chip Ganassi Racing next year, he will 100% be in a position to be in the four-timers club. So I feel like this is really the best chance he's had in a long time, to say the least. So, looking forward to that. Again, Indy 500 tomorrow at noon or 11 a.m. on NBC. Cannot wait. I'm going to try to, obviously I got to rush home from work and hope I don't miss too much. But my favorite racing day of the year. I'm looking forward to it myself. I'm going to have maybe one of these. I don't know. We'll see where the day goes. All right, I'm out of beer. I'm out of time. We want to thank you guys for watching this special edition episode of Out of Turn 4. On Tuesday, we will recap the Indy 500. We will also recap the Coke 600. And we'll make our picks for the next weekend in racing. I believe we'll have the new Detroit GP coming up. So can't wait to talk about that. Coming up on Sunday morning Tinkle, we're going to talk DeAndre Hopkins tomorrow morning. I'm sure we're going to talk NBA, NHL playoffs. So that'll be exciting. Hope you tune in tomorrow morning to Sunday morning Tinkle. We'll be looking forward to that, or listening on our podcast, or listening to us wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you back here on Tuesday. And, of course, watch No Final Bell as well. But in the meantime, we want to thank you for watching once again this special. We'll see you back here next Tuesday, on Tuesday for the recap. Until then, goodbye, everyone.